back. I'm Tedward, and welcome to the 1960 Alfa Romeo Giulietta Spider Veloce. We're going to try a slightly different format today. We're going to have a little silent ASMR walk around with this car so you can really take it in. But thanks to Bond Group, we get to drive my new favorite car. I'm absolutely in love. In the past, when people say, what's your favorite car? I have been saying the Alfa Romeo Giulietta Sprint Veloce. And the Sprint is the coupe version. Now that we have the top off, I think this is better. It's got a 1300cc inline 4-cylinder, dual overhead cams, and hemispherical head. So this is a pretty advanced little car, and it makes about 90 horsepower. I think 91 horsepower is what it's rated at. It's got a 5-speed manual gearbox. It revs, it's playful, it's instantaneously responsive. We're on a 155 section tire on a 15-inch wheel. We've got drum brakes all around, and it is my favorite. Now, there's Giuliettas, the Normale, and Giuliettas, the Veloce. All you need to know is the Veloce is essentially the S version. If we were talking about Porsches, you'd have a 911 Carrera and 911 Carrera S. The Veloce is the S, so hotter cams and a little more power. Alfa people, they're a bit of a different breed. They are kind of gluttons for punishment, but they're charming. There's something about the Alfaholics world that makes a lot of sense to me when I'm driving them. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me when I'm not driving them. Every time I get in an Alfa, I'm like, why am I not spending all of my money on these cars? And then sometimes you just hear about the lifestyle of dealing with these cars day to day. And, you know, that can be challenging, but the payoff is insanely great. The Weber carbs on this open up the intake a bit and allow for really quick throttle response. This is rev happy and it breathes really well. Ooh, look at that deer. There's more. Okay, let's not hit these deer. I do not want to get hit by a deer in this car. All right. All right, all right, all right, all right. Just go. Just go. Come on. Come on. This car's too small. And therein lies the danger in tiny little Italian sports cars, even in the middle of the day. We don't want to be hitting deer, or rather, we don't want deer to be hitting us. I think that would actually be the more catastrophic event. Cutest little horn. And this shifter, oh my goodness. This is the thing about Alfas. This is the perfect car. They're so easy to drive. Everything is just intuitive, instantaneously connectable to the driver. Is that really the way to say that? I don't have to adjust myself at all to get into this car. I immediately understand what the steering is going to do, the brakes. Maybe I could use a tiny bit more from these drums, but they're pretty good. But man, the connection between clutch, throttle, and shifter is so dead on, it's so natural, and it's exactly what driving a car is meant to be. The gates are immediately apparent. There's no questions about what gear you're going into. It takes all the guesswork out of driving this car. The tachometer's wild because it starts at 2,000 RPM. So when you start the car, it must be a little difficult to dial in an idle. I mean, I guess you'd have to use a little external tach or something to check in where you're actually idling, because you don't get anything until you're at 2,000 RPM. The steering column is offset to the right. I don't know if that comes through on video. It certainly comes through on me because, you know, this is the center of me, and this is the steering column. So it goes to show you where it is. We'll be careful in case those deer cut across here. Oh, it's the best. It even cruises on the highway. For a small car that's not turning a lot of revs, this can do everything. I can drive this across the country. This is better than a Miata. As far as I'm concerned, every single automotive engineer should be forced to drive this car before they put pen to paper and figure out what their next thing is. This is motoring bliss. This is perfect. This is heaven for a car enthusiast. This is what I want. Maybe I gotta start looking into some vintage Alfas for myself. They're getting pretty expensive. And I know, I mean, you can always get something with like a Busso V6, which is objectively one of the greatest sounding engines ever. But I love this, and I'm not like a huge MG guy. I'm not even that huge of a Jag guy. I like that, but this little Italian Giulietta, this is where my money goes. So thank you for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. I hope that you enjoy the quirky, weird cars that we take out that represent motoring perfection and bliss. Thanks to Bond Group for the opportunity to drive this outrageously well restored. I mean, by the way, if you haven't noticed, this is like Pebble Beach level restoration. This is the top of the food chain when it comes to these cars. So maybe I need to drive a cheaper one with a little less provenance. It's just to make sure it's still what I want. But you know, I'm always doing like fiddly checks to make sure. Yeah, we're good. Handbrake is down. We're fine. But I absolutely adore this. This is proper motoring perfection. Sometimes I get really jaded and bored by what's out there, what's new, what's not making the fizz happen when I drive. And then I reconnect with a car like this, and it reminds me why I do this, why I love cars, and why I love driving. So don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one. I like to knock it in a second before I go into first. Sometimes, if you don't do that, you'll just feel yourself clipping first gear, the cog, just a tiny bit. I'm super narrow, so I can just kind of go wherever I want to go.